Last week, in our gospel reading, in the verses that come right before the passage for this week, Simon Peter, proclaimed that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of the living God. He got it right, and Jesus himself affirmed that. Jesus replied, saying, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven." And even further, Jesus continued, "I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church." Peter is given the keys of the kingdom, the authority of binding and loosing. And then we have this week, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me." What happened? There's almost a shock here again, with these two conversations coming, kind of one right after the other here. This is something pretty big. This is a lesson important enough to step back from and let Peter learn it. And maybe in reading this to learn from the lesson ourselves as well. Peter had gotten it right after all. But it's almost like he didn't know what he got right or how he got it right. Kind of like, you get the right answer on a test, but you don't really know why or how you got there. So in that, there's maybe a little extra confidence or maybe some, reasoning that's going on there. But that confidence, kind of has that, again, that wrong reasoning coming through. Because, the answer, Jesus is the Messiah, there we go. But then, as Peter's maybe thinking about, what does that mean? Somehow he comes to this conclusion that these things aren't, must not ever happen. So, the meaning, the rationale is maybe something a little bit more along the lines of, Jesus is going to conquer and rule and not ever die and be in a palace over the nations. And that's not quite what Jesus is saying. And so when Jesus starts explaining, what this answer, Jesus is the Messiah, what that really means, Peter actually talks back to him with this. And reading the Gospel of Matthew as a whole, there is another time, and another situation where we see Jesus told that he should or could, rule the earth and all of the earthly nations and all that. So, yeah, get behind me, Satan, makes sense. Almost like leave me alone, tempter, or get out of my friend's mind, too, maybe. And to be clear, this isn't just a lesson for Peter. There's something, as I said before, there's something that we can learn from here. This is a lesson for anyone who would put Jesus in a box or throw a cape on him and make him a superhero or a legend or a convenient tool to be, taken out and used or employed for someone's own agenda. But Jesus doesn't fit in any box that we could make, then or now. It's a hard lesson, and sometimes a harsh lesson. We don't set God's agenda. This isn't just a lesson for Peter. Jesus talks to all of his disciples about this. Last week there was a mention of sacrifice and a bit of a question about whether you could lose or give up yourself. And this week we seem to be kind of venturing back to that kind of topic, that issue. In a couple of sentences in this passage where Jesus says, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it." For what will it profit them if they gain the whole world but forfeit their life? Or what will they give in return for their life? What do people give up to gain the whole world? Think about what really does bring life to your life. And again, gaining the whole world sounds a lot like something that we've heard before. That way of ambition and even greed, maybe, is a serious temptation. It is left a little vague, but I wonder if maybe at least part of it is about changing our focus. Changing our focus to focus on the cross, to focus on Jesus, and to live a little differently because of it. Now, this can be tricky because it's too easy to take that to the extreme too, to kind of say, okay, well then I don't matter, nothing matters, and that's not it either. This isn't an I don't matter. Clearly, everyone does, and even in other passages in Matthew, we hear, "Let your light so shine before others." So it's not a diminishing. It's not like not asking for help or being honest about what you need. And it can't be like a false humility either, or kind of like hoping to be noticed in that sacrifice. Like, look at me, I'm being humble. That doesn't work either. Or keeping count. Here's how many nice things I've done. This changing focus, it's not something that's going to get that sort of worldly result or praise or notoriety. One of the ways that Martin Luther talked about sin was being turned inward on oneself to the exclusion of any other consideration or concern. And so living differently from that, or changing our focus from that, instead of being turned inward, would turn us outward. To see a way of living not above or below anyone else. Again, that sort of comparison, once again, kind of turns us in on ourselves. So not like that, but rather living as part of a vast, larger than imagination can reach creation. To be in the world God made, turned outward, to see, to notice the wonder, the hope, and the need, and the sorrow, and the joy of that creation, all of it. To rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep, maybe. To let love be genuine, hate what is evil, hold fast to what is good, maybe. To be ardent in spirit and serve the Lord, maybe. Amen.